Okay, we're going to have a go at tracing manually a logo in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to open up Adobe Illustrator. This is Adobe CC 2014. Now I go to the File menu once I'm in Illustrator and I go New. Now I'm presented with the new document panel. Now if you are working for print, you would select Print, and then you would select the dimensions that you want the page to be or the preset page sizes. Also, you need to take into account the DPI if you're actually having things like bitmap images, photographs, etc. If they're all vector based, this may not be that important, but ideally if you're doing for magazine work, you're looking at 300. If you're going for something like laser printers, 170 or 150 would be okay, and if you're going for screen resolutions such as monitors, apps, that sort of stuff, then you would go to 72. If you're only doing it for print, you would have it on CMYK, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key color black, which matches the inks in a printer. If you're just doing for online use, you would do it RGB. Now you can manually change those if you wanted to, including these to do with points and inches and pixels, whatever you want it to be on. Say for example, you just want to be in print, you can leave it on print and have it like that. If you wanted to have it for the web, you click it on web, and all it does is change these to those settings that match those default settings. So we've got pixels here, we've got a line to a pixel grid, so they're all set up. So say for example we want to print this, so I want to go for print. I think I'll do it, say something like A4, that's fine. You can then come along and make it smaller if you wished. We'll set it up for that, and we'll have it on quite high quality. It's in millimeters, usually design in millimeters. Bleed, that is only if you're going to have objects right to the edge, like you have banners, etc., and it's going to be printed to the crop. I'll just leave that off at the moment, and I click OK. Now I have my sheet here on the page. Now the first thing you need to do if you're doing something like this design work is have a grid to lay it up. So I will go to the Illustrator menu and go Preferences. If you're using a PC, you would go to Edit menu, and your preferences would be down the bottom of that menu. Okay, here we got it in the Preferences, Guides and Grids. Now what I will need to do here is just set up some grids. It's how much I want to divide my page up. Now my page is 210. Okay, so say for example I wanted to have 12 grid lines across my page. Down doesn't necessarily matter, but if I can break it up, say into 12, it's up to you how many you want to break it up in. This is just to help you draw. Being even, it's pretty good. If it's 12, you can know 6 is in the center. Now I've got 210 millimeters, which is the width of my A4 page, and all I would do is divide that by 12, how many I wanted, and I've got 17 and a half. So I want a grid guide every 17 and a half mils, so I put that on there. Now the subdivisions are the divisions inside each of those cells, which can help you get sort of more detail on your work. Now you can leave this on say 1, and that means it doesn't really have any subdivisions inside, and then we'll change it later on when we have a look. Okay, so we set up our grid guides. If we click OK, nothing will actually happen, and the reason nothing has happened is we haven't got a grid. We go to the View menu and we say Show Grid. Now we've got a grid here, and if I blow it up a little bit here, you'll see it's got all the guides right across nice and even, and that's why they need to fit evenly across your page. If they don't, you probably have the last one cut off. So we've got the 12 squares all the way across and a lot more squares down, but it's only really the width I'm really after, and I've done it evenly so I know, and the center is 6. Now I'll just show you. If I go to the Illustrator menu and go to Preferences on a PC, you go to Edit and Preferences, and then I would go Guides and Grid. Now if I've got this here, if I want to say, okay, I'll have subdivisions of a little bit more, I say I'm going to have, say, 2 subdivisions inside each of those squares. I just click on 2, change it from 1, and you'll see here now it has those subdivisions in there. They tend to be slightly grayer, lighter grey than the main divisions. Now if you do have any sort of issues in seeing them or how they're presented in comparison with the work you're using, you can click on here and then you can actually change the color of those. So if I made them red, I would make it red here. I'll just close that down, sorry. And now we have red guides. So it's up to you however they're going to contrast with your work, and obviously you can turn them off. Now I'll just zoom back out again. I've got the zoom tool and I would hold the Alt and take it out again. I'm going to have a go at just tracing this Adidas logo. So I go to the File menu and I say Place. Now I've got my logo here and I've got it stuck to the cursor. I click and I can just drag out, I can reposition it in a minute, and I put it across there. Now what you can do is probably get rulers and guides, so you need to go to the View menu and say Show Rulers and bring that up. I'll just get my black arrowhead, which is the Select tool, and I can move it over. Now roughly I want to move it into the center there, but you've got your guides here. You can click the mouse and change whatever formatting you want. It's on millimeters, I'll leave it on there. Now what you can do is use these, the grid, to make your image quite even. If I go up to the top here, I'm just holding the Shift key and dragging one of the corners, and all I'm going to do is try to have it more central so it links up roughly. Now that's our image. It doesn't look so great, we're just using it to trace, so we need to open up our layers. So we go to the Window menu and you say Layers, or here we are in the Essentials, you can go down and bring up layers here. Now once you've got your layers, I'll just bring and drag mine out here. Now we've got our layers. I will just go to the layer options and I will make them larger on here, a little bit larger. And what we've got is we've got the layer here, and I'm going to just call that Trace. It's a sort of just a bit of a rubbishy image we're going to trace. So that's our first image that's ready to be traced, and we want that in the background. Now what we'll do is, with that selected, if I go up to the opacity and I take the opacity down like that, now what that does is I can see the grid through it, and it'll help us trace and differentiate between what we're drawing. I will now nudge that a little bit over, because what I want to do is sort of line this up a little bit. It's probably a little bit out of line, and if I move it up, I'm using the arrow keys, I can maybe take it up to the main there, and once I've got that, I've centered it up. So that's okay, and we're ready to trace it. Now what I will do is, over in the layers, I can actually come along and lock it, and what this will mean is it's not editable, so we won't knock it or move it. The worst thing you want to do is when you're tracing, you move it accidentally. Now once that's done, we're going to use the Path tool to draw a path around it, but we need to create another layer. So we go down to the bottom of the Layers panel and create another layer, and I'm just going to call this Logo. Now you can, in Illustrator, break up different sections of your logo if it's complicated on lots of different separate layers if you wish. I'm just going to put it all on one. Now we've got those. Now you'll see these little blue and red lines. If I unlock this to go back to the trace image, now if I click on here, you'll see it's a blue box or handle, and when we add elements on this layer, because it's coded red, it will show it's red, so when you do click on objects, it will switch between them. Right, okay, so I've got that and I'm all ready to go and draw. Now I'll just zoom in a little bit over here. Sometimes you can zoom in a lot, it's up to you. I'll move my layers out of the way. Now I need to get my pen tool, which is fourth one down, and it's a top pen tool. Now first I'll just go up here and I will click. I'll probably use a bit of artistic license and probably move it slightly up a bit so it gets nice and symmetrical. I click here and then I drag down. I'm not holding the mouse here, and I move it down and I click somewhere here on the edge. Now I keep my finger on the mouse and I'm dragging out. Now what these are is Bezier handles, and as I drag them out, I'm bringing it in and making it longer, and you'll see it's moving it to the edge of the part of the Adidas logo here until I get lined up, and then I let go. Now what you'll see, it's created this line around it, and also it's got fill, and also it's got this little bit of a curve which doesn't match the straight. So I'll just undo that and show you what's going on. So I'll go back and undo that. Now if I go up here to begin with, and what I will do is go up here, and this is the fill, so I'll just take the fill off. Sometimes the fill is very difficult to know what's going on underneath. Now the stroke over here was the line border, and we'll leave that on, and it's 1. Usually that helps you show where you're drawing more clearly. Now I'll have another go and start again. This time I'll click here again from the top. Again I drag down, but I'm not holding the mouse. Then I click the mouse, and then I keep my finger on the mouse, and then I pull down, and I've got my Bezier line, and you'll see it. And what you're trying to do is pull it down, move this back and forward in like that until you've got the good angle on it, and then you let go. Now you'll see it's doing this, okay, which is not what we want to do. It's trying to predict that we're going to curve. This creates smooth curves. Now if I undo that, what I can do is go down and go up here and select the anchor point tool, and I can just maybe move this in. So what I'm doing is moving that in like that, that's the little handle, and if I bring it over here a little bit, that'll dictate to what the direction of my next part along here that I want to do it in a straight line. So I go back to the pen tool, click here, come along, I hold the shift key and click here, and that shift key keeps it on a straight line. And then I can just go up here, I'm not holding the mouse, and I go up until it says anchor in green. I click the mouse, and what I'm doing here is moving it around. You've only got one anchor point on here, so you'll come along and you're matching it up. So now other ways you can mirror these things, but once we've got that, it's joined it up. Now once it's all joined up, I could turn off my layer here, and this is what we've drawn out on here. It's probably not that straight or symmetrical, but it gives you an idea of how you can put things on and sort of draw them out. Okay, this time we'll look at an option of getting things a little bit more symmetrical. All I will do is use a black arrowhead, and I will just drag out and delete just those paths I've drawn. So I'll start again, and this time I'm going to just draw half of it and reflect and turn it around. Okay, so I will again get the pen tool. I'll just start up at the top here, again try and use my grids as best I can. I come down to the bottom here and I click, I keep my finger on the mouse again. Again, I'm dragging out like that until I get the curve, using it reasonably accurately, and then once I've done that, I will let go. Now again, you'll see it's curving around if I do the escape key, and this time again I can go up here and I can get the anchor point tool, or you can press Shift and C to get the anchor point tool. Now this time I just go down to where the anchor point is, and I can turn it around and just have it go in the direction I want it to go in. Then I go back to the pen tool, or I can press P on my keyboard. I'll just click here on the anchor, and then I'll move along holding the shift key because that constrains it to a straight line, and I actually wait until it gets to the intersection here and I click the mouse again. Now if it will think I want to carry on, I press escape and it will stop that. Get the black arrowhead, the select tool, and once I've got that, that's what I've drawn out here. Now that's quite good, and if I want one on the other side, it can match exactly. I'll just click up here and drag our guide and place it at the bottom here, so I've got the guides and I know where I'm moving from and going to, and put that on there. Now that is a path, and we can see it here. It's got a guide which I've just put on, that's what's appeared, and also this is my path that's on and off. So I've got this, I can make a selection, I right mouse click, I go down to transform, and I say reflect. Now what it will do is give you a preview. It's important it has the preview, and it's showing you how it's going to end up we're just doing it vertical. That's all we want to do, is turn it around. And what we can do is we want to copy it. We don't want to turn the existing one around. We want to leave the existing one as it is, and we want to copy it. So make sure it's vertical. You can change the angle. We're not going to do that. And then we're just going to make sure the preview's on so we understand what's going to happen. And we click copy and the box will disappear. Now you've got two of them. They're crossing over a little bit. But if I now move this one and I wait and see the green smart lines, smart guides tell me it's all lined up, I've got that all set up, and that should now be symmetrical on both sides. Now the only issue is they're not joined. You'll see they've got two paths. If I bring my paths over here, they're two paths. Now I can shift click them in either the layers, or I can shift click them here. So I'll shift click them on the page. Both of them are selected. What I will do now is right mouse click and I will go to join. And what that will do is join them. So now they are one path. So that's a way of getting things symmetrical on your page. Now if I want to just go view, I'm going to go down to hide grid. And here we've got our object that we've drawn on here. Right. So that's a way of just getting something symmetrical. Now if I turn that back on, you can carry on and do the same principle. If I can come along and get my pen tool, and again I need to show that grid. The grid sometimes helps, sometimes it doesn't align up totally, and you need to use guides, but I put a guide down the bottom here so I can start anywhere. I click here, I drag that down, I click, keep my finger on the mouse, I'm moving the Bezier out until it matches the edge, and then remember what we did. We can either press escape once you get to the end, and that'll get you out of that. You can go over here, you can get the anchor point tool, or you can press Shift and C on your keyboard, and what you're doing is bringing in that anchor point and have it going in the direction you want it to go in. Then we can go back and change. That's the pen tool, or press P on your keyboard. You click on the anchor point, the last anchor point there, and you move along holding the Shift key because it's a straight line, and you click there. And then once we've got that, we can just go up here. I'm not clicking the mouse or anything. I'm just dragging it out without any mouse button held. And I click on the anchor point where I started, and then I start to pull it out. You'll probably find there's only one Bezier on there, but if I drag that out, I only need to get that. That's the direction I need to change it. And again, making it longer and bringing it in, and you more or less get it on there like that. You might need to use a bit of artistic license on it, and once I've got that more or less, I stop that. Okay, so that's done. I can go and get my black arrowhead, or press V on my keyboard. Now if we go back here and turn that off, we've got that. So we've got that set up, and here's this other path. Now I can do the same as we did before. I can click on that, and that's a whole path. And what I can do is I can just reflect it. Okay, what we'll do, I'll just zoom in here. And again, as we did before, I get the black arrowhead, the select tool, and then I can right mouse click on this selection, and then can go to transform, and I get it to reflect. There we go. As we did before, it's showing what it's going to be because we've still got the preview on it, and that's fine. We can match it up on the other side, and then if I press copy, it'll have two. I switched my trace image back on. I can zoom out a little bit more, and then again move this over to the other side. And this is just hopefully making sure it's symmetrical on there. And once we've got that, then I can turn off the trace image, and you can line it up to get it to the position you want it to be, because the actual image behind may not be presented so well because it's in pixels. Okay, what we need to do is to do the bottom half of the logo here. What I will do is, you can see it's not sort of aligned up with the grid here, so I need to move things up. I'll go back in the layers and I'll undo the lock, so it's unlocked the trace image, and I need to move both of these together. So what I can do is just go on my page and press either on a PC Control A to select all, or Command A on an Apple Mac, and then I can nudge up a little, and what will happen is these seem to be fitting quite nicely in the subdivisions here. It's just to align them up, and so I can give a size. Obviously it doesn't work with all of them, and some of them will need sort of guides, but this will just help a little bit in cutting it out. Now, a number of different ways we could get the curve on the bottom, and then it can be bits can be cut out. Okay, so we're going to have a go at setting that up. Okay, what I will do now is make sure the trace image is locked, and I'm up here in the logo layer. And what I'm going to decide to do is use the Ellipse Tool. I'm going to sort of drag it out because it's sort of elliptical shape, not a perfect circle. Okay, I'm going to start from about here. I'm going to press the Alt key, and I'm going to drag out my ellipse shape. And what I'm doing is I'm dragging it out until it sort of knocks onto some sort of key point, still holding the Alt key until it's on the edge of those. Again, a bit roughly because of the quality of the actual logo that I am tracing. Once I've got some sort of hit on some points there, I will roughly make sure it's there, and then I'll let go, and I've got that. So if I turn off certainly my other elements on there, it's sort of coming along. Some bits are not, because it's not that accurate, and this is usually when you're tracing, you've got that. Now, to begin with, what I will do is that I will just put on a colour on there. This is just to show what's happening. So I'll put a colour, and that'll be yellow, and I'll take the stroke off, so I don't need the stroke because I've got that. Now what I want to do is sort of cut off the top. So if I turn that off in the layers, and if I just drag down a guide to show where I want to cut it off, which will be on here, on this sort of line, I'll just zoom in a little bit more and come down there like that. So I'm going to have it cutting off on this line. So I'll turn that back on, and there's the line I'm going to cut off with. I'll just got the Pathfinder out here. If you go to the window menu and get Pathfinder, I'm going to use mine as front. But first of all, I'll just get a rectangle, and I'll make that rectangle black, and always make sure you don't have a selection when you drag something out. I'm just trying to drag that right across there. Now drag it right across, and I'm going to shift click the circle I've got in the background. If I can just minus that down, and if I go up here and say minus front, what it will do is just cut that off, and now I've just got this path here, which will just be that. So it's basically cut that off. There's a number of ways of doing this, and this is just one way of doing it. Now if I turn this off again, we need to cut out some more bits. Now what you can do is just this. I can come along and say, okay, here it is, I'm up here, and I'm going to make some other rectangles just across here. I can line them up on the grid, and then again I'll make another one. You know, sometimes when you're doing it, you make sure you get it all accurate, but I'm just getting the gaps right using the background trace image. Now I've got those two objects. Now I'll just color them in black so you can see what's happening, and then I'll switch back on my image at the back. Now I need to select all those, and again they're in the front, so I shift click and I select them all. Now they're all above it, and again I can do minus front, and again it chops off those. So what it's done is chopped off those elements, and you know, I've got those elements that are actually on there now, all those three elements. So it's just a matter of having an object and using the Pathfinder to chop things out as if you're making like a cookie cutter making biscuits. Now back here, I'll just close those down. Back here I've still got to do this element here, and then also I've got to chop these off. Now a good way I can chop these off, again I might do a trim. So if I switch this back on again, I we're going to chop through that. So I'll turn it off, and I will get another rectangle, and I'll put it here. And again, I'll sort of hold the Alt key, I'll sort of drag it out a little bit here, have it up. Okay, what I'll do is just drag that out. What I need to do is just have it so it's chopping off these sides on here. Okay, so I'll just color this in black just to see what's so you know what's happening. Now, how I get these edges on it, if I can just zoom in a little bit here, I've got to get it to match these angles like that. Also, I'm making sure that this is in the using these guides to make sure it's in the center here, and I need to get it to skewer. So I go down here to the free transform, and I pick this one, perspective distortion, and all I will do is just tug it out, and what that will do is make an equal sort of chop at either side, and I've got that. Now once I've got that, I can actually turn on the back group here, and then with the black arrowhead, the selection tool, I can select them both, and this time I go down to the Pathfinders down the bottom, and I say trim. Okay, once that's trimmed, you'll see it'll open up here, and it's changed that and made it into a group. And if I go for the direct selection tool, which is the white arrowhead, I can click away so nothing's selected, and then I can just click on my black object here and drag it down. And what it's done is trim those edges off. I can actually get rid of that path now, and that's what I have. It's made all this into a group. Okay, so finally I'll just chase around this, which is mainly just a V shape. So if I zoom in a little bit more, and what I will do is probably use a little bit of, you can use a bit of, creative license, and then I'm going to use these guides either side. So I'll just go up and get the pen tool. Up at the top, I'll just click here, I click here, and then I go down to the bottom where the intersection is here. It'll give me the smart guides. I click there, and then I just move up again, and I click here and make that object. Now, it's made it those colors. I just need to click away, get the black arrowhead. I'll take the stroke off it, and it's a good time now to change my object. The fill colors, I'll just take it up here and make that black, and now I can go to my other objects, which are this group here, and bring this up, and then again I can just take that off once I've made that selection, and again I can make those into black, and then finally I can just zoom out a bit. Okay, all I need to do is switch these paths on down the bottom here. I've got these paths, and you'll see here each of them have got a stroke around it. I can shift click them all so they sort of group together here, and all I can do is just turn off the paths strokes around them, and then finally I will just give them a fill and make them black. Now once I've done that, I can close up this layer here, and then I can now turn off my guides, and I've got my logo lined up. If I now go to the view menu and go hide grid, you'll see it's sorted out, and we've created our logo by just tracing it using a number of the different path tools and the path options. Lots of different ways of doing it. Ideally with this, you just need to make it symmetrical, and that might mean that you're sort of doing things slightly different from your trace. If your trace image is really clear, that's good. Sometimes it's rough or a sketch, you're going to have some issues. What you would do, finish off the logo, you could either trace the text and do it like that, or you could type the text in if that's what you would want.